Read on the channel chat. We got Think and Grow Rich. This is going to be our day one read of this today. And I just want to go over how we're going to be doing this on the channel really quickly. So we're going to be reading every chapter for an entire week, right? So every chapter we read of this book, we're going to do it for an entire week. That gives us a chance to actually digest the information from the book, take notes on the things that we read, and then build a dialogue on what we're going over and what we're learning as we read, right? So I just wanted to go over that really quickly. So we're going to read every chapter for an entire week, just so we can actually digest the material and be able to move forward and put it into practice, right? So I hope you guys are all ready for a new read on the channel. I've already started reading this book, and I was like, this is really good. This is a good read. This is a really good read. So I was like, might as well share with the community, right? So, what's up with you, Nisha? How you doing? This is gonna be day one of Think and Grow Rich. Right after this, we're gonna do our daily read of the One Year Bible. Facts. Right after this read, we're gonna end this stream and then do our 1 year Bible read. But today is gonna be our first day one of Think and Grow Rich. So without further ado, and I appreciate you for making the stream. I tried to do a little early for you, you know. I tried to do it a little earlier for you, Niche. I was like, I think she missed the one last night. I'm gonna read it earlier today. So hope you are going to enjoy today's read. We're gonna skip the preface and get into the actual reading. Okay, so here we go. Chapter one. Chapter one is called The Power of Thought. Now let's get into it. Okay, so the man who thought his way into partnership with Thomas Edison. So this book really goes over, from what I read so far, is different people's perspectives and how they were able to apply these principles. So that was another reason why I really enjoyed it and wanted to share it. And now, without further ado, let's begin today's read. So truly thoughts are things, and powerful things at that. When mixed with purpose, persistence, and a burning desire for their translation into riches or other material objects. Edwin C. Barnes discovered how true it is that men really do think and grow rich. His discovery did not come about at one sitting. It came little by little, beginning with a burning desire to become a business associate of the great Thomas Edison. One of the chief characteristics of Barnes' desire was that it was definite. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. He wanted to work with Edison, not for him. Observe carefully the description of how he went about translating his desire into reality, and you will have a better understanding of the 13 principles which lead to riches. When his desire or impulse of thought first flashed into the mind, he was in no position to act upon it. Two difficulties stood in his way. He did not know Mr. Edison, and he did not have enough money to pay his rail fare to Orange, New Jersey. These difficulties were sufficient to have discouraged the majority of people from making any attempt to carry out their desire. But his, how you doing, Anna, was no ordinary desire. He was so determined to find a way to carry out his desire that he finally decided to travel by blind baggage rather than be defeated. To the uninitiated, this means that he went to the East Orange on a freight train. He presented himself at Mr. Edison's laboratory and announced he had come to go into business with the inventor. In speaking of the first meeting between them, years later, Mr. Edison said, "He stood there before me, looking like an ordinary tramp, but there was something in the expression of his face, which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he came after." I had learned from years of experience with men that when a man really desires a thing so deeply that he's willing to stake his entire future on a single turn of the wheel in order to get it, he is sure to win. I gave him the opportunity he asked for, because I saw he had made up his mind to stand by until he succeeded. Subsequent events proved that no mistake was made. Just what young Barnes said to Mr. Edison on that occasion was far less important than what he thought. Edison himself said so. It could not have been the youngest man's appearance that got him his start in the Edison office, for that was definitely against him. It was what he thought that counted. If the significance of this statement could be conveyed to every person who reads it, there would be no need for the remainder of this book. So let's read it one more time then. Just what young Barnes said to Mr. Edison on that occasion was far less important than what he thought. Edison himself said so. It could not have been the young man's appearance that got him his start in the Edison office, for that was definitely against him. It was what he thought that counted. I hope you enjoyed that second reading of that. So if the significance of this statement could be conveyed to every person who reads it, there will be no need for the remainder of this book. Barnes did not get his partnership with Edison on his first interview. He did get a chance to work in the Edison offices at a very nominal wage, doing work that was unimportant to Edison, but most important to Barnes. It gave him an opportunity to display his merchandise where his intended partner could see it. Months went by. Apparently nothing happened to bring his coveted goal, which Barnes had set up in his mind at his definite major purpose. But something important was happening in Barnes' mind. He was constantly intensifying his desire to become the business associate of Edison. Psychologists have correctly said, when one is truly ready for a thing, it puts in its appearance. Barnes was ready for a business association with Edison. Moreover, he was determined to remain ready until he got that which he was seeking. He did not say to himself, "Ah, well, what's the use? I guess I'll change my mind and try for a salesman's job." But he did say, "I came here to go into business with Edison, and I'll accomplish this, and if it takes the remainder of my life." He meant it. What a different story people would have to tell if only they would adopt a definite purpose and stand by that purpose until it had time to become an all-consuming obsession. Maybe young Barnes did not know it at the time, but his bulldog determination, his persistence with a single desire, was destined to mow down all opposition and bring him the opportunity he was seeking. When the opportunity came, it appeared in a different form, and from a different direction than Barnes had expected. That is one of the tricks of opportunity. It has a slight habit of slipping in the back door, and oftentimes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. Perhaps this is why so many fail to recognize opportunity. Mr. Edison had just perfected a new office device, known at the time as the Edison dictating machine, later called the Ediphone. His salesmen were not enthusiastic over the machine. They did not believe it could be sold without great effort. Barnes saw his opportunity. It had crawled in quietly, hidden in a queer-looking machine that interested no one but Barnes and the inventor. Barnes knew he could sell the Edison dictating machine. He suggested this to Edison and promptly got his chance. He did sell the machine. In fact, he sold it so successfully that Edison gave him a contract to distribute and market it all over the nation. Out of that business association grew the slogan, "Made by Edison and installed by Barnes." This business alliance made Barnes rich in money, but he accomplished something infinitely greater. He proved that one really may think and grow rich. Oh, they said the title. How much actual cash that original desire of Barnes was worth to him, I have no way of knowing. Perhaps it brought him $2 or $3 million. Whatever the amount, it becomes insignificant when compared with the greater asset he acquired. The definite knowledge that an intangible impulse of thought can be transmuted into a physical counterpart by the application of known principles. Barnes literally thought himself into a partnership with the great Edison. He thought himself into a fortune. He had nothing to start with except the capacity to know what he wanted and the determination to stand by that desire until he realized it. He had no money to begin with. He had but little education. He had no influence, but he did have initiative, faith, and the will to win. With these intangible forces, he made himself #1 man with the greatest inventor who ever lived. Now, let us look at a different situation and study a man who had plenty of tangible evidence of riches, but lost it because he stopped 3 feet short of the goal he was seeking. 3 feet from gold is the title of this. One of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. Every person is guilty of this mistake at one time or another. R.U. Darby, who later became one of the most successful insurance salesmen in the country, tells the story of his uncle who was caught by the gold fever in the gold rush days and went west to dig and grow rich. He had never heard the saying that more gold has been mined from the brains of men than has ever been taken from the earth. He staked a claim and went to work with a pick and shovel. The going was hard, but his lust for gold was definite. After weeks of labor, he was rewarded by the discovery of shining ore. He needed machinery to bring the ore to the surface. Quietly, he covered up the mine, retracing his footsteps to his home in Williamsburg, Maryland, and told his relatives and a few neighbors of the strike. They got together money for the needed machinery and had it shipped. The uncle and Darby went back to work in the mine. The first car of ore was mined and shipped to a smelter. The returns proved that it had one of the richest mines in Colorado. A few more cars of that ore would clear the depths. Then would come the big killing and profits. Down with the drills. Up went the hopes of Darby and the uncle. Then something happened. The vein of gold ore disappeared. They had come to the end of the rainbow, and the pot of gold was no longer there. They drilled on desperately, trying to pick up the vein again, all to no avail. Finally, they decided to quit. They sold the machinery to a junk man for a few $100s and took the train back home. Some junk men are dumb, but not this one. He called in a mining engineer to look at the mine and do a little calculating. The engineer advised that the project had failed because the owners were not familiar with fault lines. His calculations showed that the vein would be found just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling. That's exactly where it was found. The junk man took millions of dollars in ore from the mine because he knew enough to seek expert counsel before giving up. Most of the money which went into the machinery was procured through the efforts of R.U. Darby, who was then a very young man. The money came from his relatives and neighbors because of their faith in him. He paid back every dollar of it, although he was years in doing so. Long afterwards, Mr. Darby recouped his loss many times over when he made the discovery that desire can be transmuted into gold. The discovery came after he went to business of selling life insurance. Remembering that he lost a huge fortune because he stopped 3 feet from gold, Darby profited by the experience in his closing work. His simple method was to say to himself, I stopped 3 feet from gold, but I will never stop because men say no when I ask them to buy insurance. He owes his stickability to the one lesson he learned from his quitability in the gold mining business. Before success comes to most people, they are sure to meet with much temporary defeat and perhaps some failure. When faced with defeat, the easiest and most logical thing to do is to quit. That is exactly what the majority of people do. More than 500 of the most successful people America has ever known told the author their greatest success came just one step beyond the point at which defeat had overtaken them. Failure is a trickster with a keen sense of irony and cunning. It takes great delight in tripping one up when success is almost within reach. And now this one is called a 50-cent lesson. What's up, Trip Zool? How you doing? JBC Lifestyle Vlog 888. A 50-cent lesson in persistence. Shortly after Mr. Darby received his degree from the University of Hard Knocks and had decided to profit by his experience in the gold mining business, he had the good fortune to be present on an occasion that proved to him that no does not necessarily mean no. One afternoon, he was helping his uncle grind wheat in an old-fashioned mill. The uncle operated a large farm on which a number of sharecrop farmers lived. Quietly, the door was opened and a small child, the daughter of a tenant, walked in and took her place near the door. The uncle looked up, saw the child, and barked at her roughly. What do you want? Meekly, the child replied, my mammy says send her 50 cents. I'll not do it, the uncle retorted. Now you run on home. Yes, sir, the child replied, but she did not move. The uncle went ahead with his work, so busily engaged he did not notice that the child had not left. When he looked up and saw her still standing there, he yelled at her, I told you to go on home. Now go, or I'll take a switch to you. The little girl said, yes, sir, but she did not budge an inch. The uncle dropped a sack of grain he was about to pour into the mill hopper, picked up a barrel stave, and started towards the child with an expression on his face that indicated trouble. Darby held his breath. He was certain he was about to witness a murder. He knew his uncle had a fierce temper. When the uncle reached the spot where the child was standing, she quickly stepped forward 1 step, looked into his eyes, and screamed at the top of her shrill voice, my mammy's gotta have that 50 cents. The uncle stopped, looked at her for a minute, and then slowly laid the barrel stave on the floor, put his hand in his pocket, and took out $50 and gave it to her. The child took the money and slowly backed towards the door, never taking her eyes off the man whom she had just conquered. After she had gone, the uncle sat down on a box and looked out the window into a space for more than 10 minutes. He was pondering with awe on the whipping he had just taken. Mr. Darby, too, was doing some thinking. That was the first time in all his experience they had seen a child of a sharecropper deliberately master an adult authority figure. How did she do it? What happened to his uncle that caused him to lose his fierceness and become as docile as a lamb? What strange power did this child use that made her master over her superior? These other similar questions flashed into Darby's mind, but he did not find the answer until years later, when he told me the story. Strangely, the story of this unusual experience was told to the author in the old mill, on the very spot where the uncle took his whipping. As we stood there in the old musty mill, Mr. Darby repeated the story of unusual conquest and finished by asking, "What can you make of it? What strange power did that child use that so completely whipped my uncle?" The answer to his question will be found in the principles described in this book. The answer is full and complete. It contains details and instructions sufficient to enable anyone to understand and apply the same force that a little child accidentally stumbled upon. Keep your mind alert, and you will observe exactly what strange power came to the rescue of the child. You will catch a glimpse of this power in the next chapter. Somewhere in the book, you will find an idea that will quicken your receptive powers and place at your command for your own benefit this same irresistible power. The awareness of this power may come to you in the first chapter, or it may flash into your mind in some subsequent chapter. It may come in the form of a single idea, or it may come in the nature of a plan or a purpose. Again, it may cause you to go back into your past experiences of failure or defeat and bring to the surface some lesson by which you can regain all that you lost through defeat. After I described to Mr. Darby the power unwittingly used by the little child, he quickly retracted his 30 years of experience as a life insurance salesman. He frankly acknowledged that his success in that field was due, in no small degree, to the lesson he had learned from the child. Mr. Darby pointed out every time a prospect tried to bow me out without buying, I saw that child standing there in the old mill, her big eyes glaring in defiance, and I said to myself, I've got to make this sell. The better portion of all sales I have made were made after people had said no. He recalled, too, his mistake in having stopped only 3 feet from gold, but he said that experience was a blessing in disguise. It taught me to keep on keeping on, no matter how hard that the going may be. A lesson I needed to learn before I could succeed in anything. This story of Mr. Darby and his uncle, the sharecropper's child, in the gold mine will doubtless be read by hundreds of people who will make their living by selling life insurance. To all of these, the author wishes to offer the suggestion that Darby owes to these. That over-the-horizon hairline. Okay, bud. 2 experiences, his ability to sell more than $1 million of life insurance every year. Life is strange and often imponderable. Both his success and failures had their roots in simple experiences. Mr. Darby's experiences were commonplace and simple enough. Yet, as he held the answer to his destiny in life, they were as important to him as life itself. He profited by these 2 dramatic experiences because he analyzed them and found the lesson they taught. But what of the person who has neither the time nor the inclination to study failure in search of knowledge that may lead to success? Where and how are they to learn the art of converting defeat into stepping stones of opportunity? In answer to these questions, this book was written. The answer called for a description of 13 principles. However, remember as you read that the answer you may be seeking to the questions which have caused you to ponder over the strangeness of life may be found in your own mind. Some idea, plan, or purpose may spring into your mind as you read. One sound idea is all you need to achieve success. The principles described in this book contain the best and the most practical ways and means of creating useful ideas. Before we go any further in our approach to the description of these principles, we believe you are entitled to receive this important suggestion. All caps here, chat. When riches begin to come, they come so quickly in such great abundance that one wonders where they have been hiding during all those lean years. This is an astounding statement, and all the more so when we take into consideration the popular belief that riches come only to those who work hard and long. When you begin to think and grow rich, you will observe that riches begin with a state of mind, with definiteness of purpose, With little or no hard work, you and every other person ought to be interested in knowing how to acquire a state of mind that will attract riches. I spent 25 years in research, analyzing more than 25,000 people because I, too, wanted to know how wealthy men become that way. Without that research, this book could not have been written. Here, take notice of a very significant truth. The business depression that started in 1929 and continued on an all-time record of destruction until sometime after President Roosevelt entered office. Then the depression began to fade into nothingness. Just as an electrician in a theater raises the light so gradually that darkness is transmuted into light before you realize it, so did the spell of fear in the minds of people gradually fade away and become faith. As soon as you master the principles of this philosophy and begin to follow the instructions for applying those principles, your financial status will begin to improve. Everything you touch will begin to transmute itself into an asset for your benefit. Impossible? Not at all. One of the main witnesses of mankind is the average person's familiarity with the word impossible. He knows all the rules that will not work. He knows all the things that cannot be done. This book was written for those who seek the rules that have made others successful and are willing to stake everything on those rules. A great many years, I purchased a fine dictionary. The first thing I did was turn to the word impossible and neatly clip it out of the book. That would not be an unwise thing for you to do. Success comes to those who become success conscious. And failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become failure conscious. The object of this book is to help all who seek it learn the art of changing their minds from failure consciousness to success consciousness. Another weakness found altogether too many people is the habit of measuring everything and everyone by their own impressions and beliefs. Some who read this will believe that no one can think and grow rich. They cannot think in terms of riches because their thoughts, habits have been steeped in poverty, want, misery, failure, and defeat. Millions of people look at achievements of Henry Ford and envy him for his good fortune, or luck, or genius, or whatever it is they credit for Ford's fortune. Perhaps one person in every 100,000 knows the secret of Ford's success, and those who do know are too modest or too reluctant to speak of it because of its simplicity. A single transaction will illustrate the secret perfectly. When Ford decided to produce his now famous V8 motor, he chose to build an engine with the entire 8-cylinder cast in one block and instructed his engineers to produce a design for the engine. The design was placed on paper, but the engineers believed it was simply impossible to cast an 8-cylinder gas engine block into one piece. Ford said, "Produce it anyway." But they replied, "It's impossible." "Go ahead," Ford commanded, "and stay on the job until you succeed, no matter how much time is required." The engineers went ahead. There was no other option if they wanted to remain on the Ford staff. 6 months went by and nothing happened. Another 6 months passed and still nothing happened. The engineers tried every conceivable plan to carry out the orders, but the thing seemed out of the question, impossible. At the end of the year, Ford checked with his engineers, and again they informed him they had found no way to carry out his orders. "Go right ahead," said Ford. "I want it and I'll have it." Then they went ahead, and then, as if by a stroke of magic, the secret was discovered. The Ford determination had won once more. This story may not be described with minute accuracy, but the sum of its substance of it is correct. Deduce from it, you who wish to think and grow rich, the secret of the 4 millions, if you can. You'll not have to look very far. Henry Ford is a success because he understands and applies the principles of success. One of these is desire, knowing what he wants. Remember this Ford story as you read, and pick up the lines in which the secret of his stupendous achievement has been described. If you can do this, you can lay your finger on the particular group of principles that made Henry Ford rich. You can equal his achievements in almost any calling for which you are suited. Okay, so here it goes into your Chinese. What's up? Welcome to the chat, brother. This is a little text here. It's italicized, right? So the Henry Ford of the late 20th century was Bill Gates. Just as Ford revolutionized the transportation industry by creating a car that almost anyone could afford and drive, Bill Gates transformed the computer industry by designing software that enabled everybody, not just the specialized technocrats, to be able to use computers, and later making that personal computer a virtual necessity in every office, school, and home. This resulted in Bill Gates accruing billions of dollars and becoming the richest man in America. He first became entranced with computers and began programming them at the age of 13. In 1973, he entered Harvard University, where he lived down the hall from Steve Ballmer, now Microsoft Chief Executive Officer. While at Harvard, Gates, excuse me, Gates developed a version of the programming language BASIC for the first microcomputer. Gates was so absorbed in his dream of building a software company that he left Harvard to devote his energies to fulfilling it. A few years earlier, he and his childhood friend Paul Allen had formed a company, Microsoft, as a vehicle for his endeavor, guided by a belief that the computer would be a valuable tool in every office doorstep and in every home. They began developing software for personal computers. Gates' foresight and his vision for personal computing have been central to the success of Microsoft in the software industry. Having achieved his major goal, Bill Gates continues to pursue new goals, both in business of creating ever-improving computer programs and in his philanthropic work, having founded with his wife, Melinda, the largest charitable foundation in the world. Okay, and this chapter is called You Are the Master of Your Fate, the Captain of Your Soul. When the English poet W.C. Henley wrote the prophetic lines, I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul, he should have informed us that the reason we are masters of the fate and the captains of our soul is because we have the power to control our thoughts. He should have told us that the ether in which this little planet floats, in which we move and have our being, is a form of energy moving at an inconceivable high rate of vibration, and that the ether is filled with the form of a universal power which adopts itself to the nature of thoughts we heard in our minds. They influence us in natural ways to transmute our thoughts into physical equivalent. If the poet had told us of this great truth, we would know why it is that we are masters of our fate, the captains of our souls. He should have told us with great emphasis that this power makes no attempt to discriminate between destructive and constructive thoughts, that it will urge us to translate into physical reality thoughts of poverty just as quickly as it will influence upon the acts of thoughts of riches. He should have told us that our brains become magnetized with dominating thoughts we heard in our minds, by means which no one is familiar, these magnets attract to us forces, the people, the circumstances of life, which harmonize with the nature of our dominating thoughts. He should have told us that before we can accumulate riches in great abundance, we must magnetize our minds with intense desire for riches, that we must become money conscious until the desire for money drives us to create definite plans for acquiring it. But, being a poet and not a philosopher, Henley contented himself by stating a great truth in poetic form, leaving those who followed him to interpret the philosophical meaning of his lines. Little by little, the truth has unfolded itself, until it now appears certain that the principles described in this book hold the secret of mastery over our economic fate. And another italicized text right here, chat. It goes like this. Another man who exemplifies being a master of his fate is Steven Spielberg, one of the all-time great motion picture directors. He dreamed of being a movie director from his childhood. He began making amateur films with a primitive camera when he was still a child, and the dream never subsided. How Spielberg broke into Universal Studios is a legend in the movie industry. He took the Universal Studios tour, an attraction that enables visitors to get an inside look at the movie business, and visitors ride around the studio's lots on a tram. Steve sneaked off the tram and hid between two sound stages until the tour ended. When he left at the end of the day, he made a point of saying a few words to the gate guard. Day after day, he went back to the studio for 3 months. He walked past the guard, waved at him, and he waved back. Ooh, he was training him. He always wore a suit and carried a briefcase, letting the guard assume he was one of the students with a summer job in the studio. Yeah. He made a point of speaking to and befriending directors, writers, and editors. He even found a vacant office, took it over, and listed his name in the building directory. He made it his business to get to know Sid Steinberg, then head of production of the studio's television arm. He showed him his college film project, which so impressed Steinberg that he put the young man under contract with the studio. His first full-length film, The Sugarland Express, received critical acclaim and won the Best Screenplay Award at the 1974 Cannes Film Festival. Unfortunately, it did not do very well at the box office. His big break came a year later when he discovered the book of Jaws. The studio had already decided to produce Jaws and had chosen a well-known director to film it. Spielberg desperately wanted to make this movie, Despite the financial failure of the Sugarland Express, his self-confidence had not diminished, and he persuaded the producers to dismiss the chosen director and give him the film. It was not an easy assignment. From the beginning, trouble beset the production. It ran into technical and budget problems. However, when Jaws was released in June 1975, it enjoyed twofold success. It broke box office records, and critics loved it. Within a month of its release, the film had taken in $60 million at the box office, an unheard of amount at the time. Over the next few years, Spielberg directed several movies, including the popular Indiana Jones series, the award-winning The Color Purple, and Empire of the Sun and E.T. He later directed Jurassic Park, which would also become, at its time, the most successful movie in history, the third Spielberg film to break the record. It also brought in over $1 billion in gross receipts, toys, and other merchandise. Spielberg continues to pursue his dreams when he and two other Hollywood moguls created their own production company. They called it DreamWorks. We are now ready to examine the first of these principles. Maintain a spirit of open-mindedness. Remember as you read that they are the invention of no single person. The principles were gathered from the life experiences of more than 500 men who actually accumulated riches in huge amounts. Men who began in poverty with little education or influence. The principles work for these men. You can put them to work for your own enduring benefit. You will find it easy, not hard to do. Before you read the next chapter, I want you to know it conveys factual information that might easily change your entire financial destiny, as it has so definitely brought changes of stupendous proportions to two people described. I want you to know also that the relationship between these two men and myself is such that I could have taken no liberties with the facts, even if I had wishes to do so. One of them has been my closest personal friend for almost 25 years, and the other is my own son. The unusual success of these two men, success that is generous a credit to the principle described in the next chapter, more than justifies this personal reference as means of emphasizing the far-flung power of this principle. And chat, that is the end of chapter 1. I'm gonna read that way better as we continue to progress. I'm gonna read that way better as we continue to progress. But there are a couple of things I want to go over. Work on my pace, definitely. Work on my pace as I read this book specifically. I can't read these words too fast. The sentences are really long. Lots of commas. But for a couple of things that I want to talk about from today's reading, this is why I really wanted to share this book. Okay. So we're gonna go over Barnes really quickly. So Barnes was the first person we talked about today, right? Barnes was the first person we talked about today, right, chat? So Barnes, he had this dream of working with Mr. Edison, right? And we just want to go over what Barnes did to get to where he ended up being at, right? He had a thought in his mind that came across his mind, and he was determined to achieve his goal, right? So we'll start there with determination, right? He was determined to achieve his goal. How many people do you know in your life that, I got a couple examples. I got a couple of homies that we had conversations about things in life, and then they went to go after their goals, and then they achieved them, right? Myself, right? When failure comes, sometimes you get stand up and go at it again. And Barnes executed this to a T, right? At first, he had nothing he needed. He didn't have anything he needed to get to his goal, right? But he did not let that deter him from ever having a thought of achieving the goal, right? A lot of the problems that we have is when we don't have everything we think we need right now, we don't allow ourselves to think of having the goal at all, right? So that's one thing that Barnes did. Even though he didn't have what he needed in the moment, right, to achieve his goal, he did not let his goal seem like it was impossible, right? He still allowed his goal to seem achievable, even if he wasn't ready yet, right? And I think that's a really good thing to keep on our minds, is we're not always gonna be ready for the things that come across us, right? But it does not mean that we can't do it, right? And Barnes stuck to that principle, right? He stuck to that principle, determination. He did not let that deter him, right? And what else did Barnes do, right? So when he got his opportunity, He did not let his opportunity pass him by, right? He got his opportunity and he went with his opportunity. How many of us have gotten the opportunity we asked for, and then when we got it, we decided we're gonna settle? How many people have settled once they got their opportunity, right? How many people forgot their dream once they got the opportunity? You know, how many people forgot their dream when they got their opportunity, right? And that reminds us to, Barnes here reminds us to not forget our actual goal, right? Just because you got in the door does not mean to forget your goal. That's not your goal to get in the door. Your goal was to make change. Your goal was to make history. That's why you started in the first place, right? So why would you stop when you just got in the door? You just got in. Chris Brown line. How you can't even get in? something about a club. You can't even get in, right? But that's what Barnes did, right? He didn't stop when he just got in the door. So let's remember to not stop when we just get in the door. Getting in the door is not the goal. Getting in the door is not the goal, right? Putting your foot in the door is not the goal. You know, putting your foot in the door is not the goal. You know, so let's remember that just because we got in the door does not mean it's over. That does not mean that's not our goal. That was never our goal. Let's remember our goal, right? Let's keep our goal on our mind, right? What else did Barnes do, right? What else did Barnes do? He took chances at his opportunities. When the opportunity finally showed itself, he stayed and did whatever work he had to do for a while, right? And sometimes that's what we have to do, right? Sometimes you have to sit around and just do this work for a while, but you still have your goal on your mind. We don't let the day-to-day life make us forget our dream, right? That's one thing that Barnes didn't do. He didn't let his day-to-day life of having to do this menial work make him forget his dream, right? When his opportunity came, he was ready because he never let his dream leave. He never let his dream leave. So when the opportunity showed itself, he was ready to go for his opportunity. So when everybody else said, we can't sell this phone, Mr. Edison, this phone seems ridiculous. I don't know how you expect me to sell this, brother. I don't know what you mean. Barnes did not say none of that. He said, I got you. He said what? He said, I came here to be your right-hand man, bro. Thank you, Timothy. I appreciate that. But I'm married and you'll get me beat up by my wife, so still chill out. I'm just joking. My wife will never beat me up. But when the opportunity showed itself, he was ready. He said, one day I'm gonna be Edison's right-hand man, right? When the opportunity showed itself, he was ready to be his right-hand man. And then the saying came, right? What was it? Made by Edison, installed by Barnes, right? How you doing, April? How you doing? Bay is crazy. Y'all trying to get my wife to destroy my YouTube channel. she gonna post. She gonna what do you call? Report my channel. It's gonna be gone out of here. Chill out. Right. So when his opportunity showed itself, he was ready. Right. So let's not forget our dreams. Let's keep being ready. Let's keep being ready for our opportunity. Let's not forget that our opportunity is coming. Definitely. Be ready for it. Keep preparing and keep prepping for your opportunity. You feel me? Keep prepping for your opportunity because your dedication and determination will make it come. We don't want the channel going. You feel me? I don't want the channel going. You know how much effort I put into this? Oh, man. Oh, man. I've streamed for 147 days in a row for making this. Okay, chill out. Timothy, chill out, brother. My channel's gone. My channel's going, bro. My channel's gone. My channel's gone. I'm just joking. But let's remember what Barnes did here, right, chat? When his opportunity came, he had been doing this for a year. He'd been doing menial tasks, right? Sometimes when we're doing stuff that we feel like isn't important, right? We let that overcome our mind, right? We let that fill our mind instead of what we need to be filling our mind, which is to be ready for when the opportunity comes. He didn't let the fact that he was doing stuff that Mr. Edison did not care about him doing, right? He didn't let none of that get to him. He didn't let none of that get to him. None of the outside world stuff. He did not let him get to him. In his mind, he knew one day, we are going to be on the same level. We're gonna be working together. I'm not gonna be working for you no more. We're gonna be working together. And that's what he said. That's what he kept telling himself, right? No matter how long it took, it took a year, right? You don't want to know what's filling my mind. Hey, Timothy, chill out. I'm at the But he kept that on his mind the entire time, right? So let's remember what the principles that Barnes showed us to achieve our goals. You know, let's remember the principles that Barnes showed us to achieve our goals. Right? He had the first thing that came to his mind was his thought. Right? Then he saw his situation. He said, I still believe I can do it, even though he didn't have the money, the way to get there, or the opportunity yet. Right? He still said, maybe I can still do this though. Right? So he kept on his mind. Maybe I can still do this though. Some way it may work out in some way, right? That keeping that thought in his mind led to his ability, his chance to end up working with Edison, to end up with the opportunity. And when he showed himself to Edison, he came with such determination to achieve his goal that Edison could not tell him no, right? But that didn't mean he immediately got his job at that point, right? Sometimes we want it then, right? And if it don't happen right then we're done, right? But that's not the case here. Barnes did not let the fact that he ended up having to do menial work after he did all that way to get all the way to Edison to show his determination. He still had to do menial work for a little while, right? But he did not let that deter him from his still goal. He still had the goal of being his right-hand man. I'm not going to work for you. We're going to work together. I'm not going to be your servant. We're going to be homies, friends, associates, right? And that's what his goal was, right? His goal was that, to be his right-hand man, to be working together with him. So even though he had to do menial work that Edison did not care about, he did not let that deter him, right? And then in a year's time, he got his opportunity. His opportunity to sell this phone, this Edison phone, crazier than anybody else. And when his opportunity showed up, he destroyed it, right? So remember that your opportunity will show up, and you got the chance to knock it out the park. Home run. Home run. You got the chance to knock it out of the park, you know? So, and then we have Mr. Darby, right? Mr. Darby, we've all had this, right? We've all had this, right? When I was a couple years ago, right? I told you I do IT, right? And a couple years ago, I was doing my CCNP test, right? I've always been like this person with myself, right? Who I call myself clutch. I call myself clutch. I call myself the clutchest person. Whenever anybody would tell me anything, rest in peace, Kobe, right? Or anything, I'd be like, I'm Kobe, bro. I'm clutch. That's what, in my mind, I was like, bro, I'm Kobe, I'm clutch, right? When I was taking my test, I was on my last leg of the test. I have knocked everything else out of the park, right? I did the first two tests, knocked it out of the park. I was on the third test. And then I was nervous, bro. I was anxious, and I didn't pass, right? And at this time, this is when me and my wife now were friends at the time, and we were talking, right? And I was hurt. Right? And I was gonna put off taking the test again for like a month, but she was like, "Nah, do it again, right? Go take the test again. Don't give up, right?" And so I ended up just going to go take the test again, right? And when I sat in my car, I was like, "Hey God," I was like, "Hey God, I need you right now." I'm not sure. I'm determined to achieve my goal. I put in, at this point, I got my CCNA. I got just been CCNA certified, and I was about to be CCNP certified. I did it all in 6 months, right? And at the time, there was nobody around me who believed I could do it in that short period of time, but I believed in myself that I could do it in 6 months, right? And I did it in 6 months. I made the threshold, the deadline of 6 months of achieving that goal, to get both of those certs, right? When I was sitting in my car, I was like, God, I'm on my last little time that I have left to achieve this goal, and I'm determined to achieve this goal, right? And then like my life flashed through my mind, right? My life started flashing through my mind, right? And I was like, I was like, I'm convinced. I got this. I'm convinced, right? So then I walked in, I walked in that place, and bro, I was always gonna pass. I was always gonna pass that test. When I walked in there, I was always gonna pass, right? And and that's the kind of determination that Darby had. But this is also not Darby, but Barnes had. But we can also see how in some way I could have ended up like Mr. Darby here in this story that's coming next. I call it a 50-cent lesson in persistence, right? If I would have threw in the towel, right, I could have been 3 feet short. I could have been 3 feet short. I've had that experience before. When I was doing my PT test when I was in BMT, basic military training, I had this goal of getting 100 on my PT test. I had the best times of everybody in my flight, right? The best times. I did it easily, right? And then I got to the final test day, and then we were competing with our brother flight at the time, and we were competing for like some award, right? And then they stepped in front of me, and I missed. It's crazy. It says 3 feet. I missed the time by 3 seconds. I got a 99.7, and that hurt my soul. That hurt my soul. That hurt my soul. I'm not gonna lie. That hurt my soul. But from that point forward, bro, I was determined to crush it every single time, bro. And from that day forward, I crushed it to the point to where I got so good at running, chat. I got so good at running that I didn't even feel the need. I didn't even run anymore, bro. I would dance and run. I play my headphones and dance and run. I would dance, do the times. I would lap everybody crazy amount of times, but I was determined to never let that happen to me again, right? And to never let anybody be close enough to get in my way ever again, right? So I can understand Mr. Darby here in this situation where you came up a little short of your goal, and it hurts. It definitely does hurt to end up a little short on your goals, right? But you can always bounce back, right? And that's what Darby did here in this story here, right? Darby, he was mining for gold. He found the gold, right? Came back home to his family, told everybody, "Yo, we're rich. We hit it." Coming back out the machinery, they're digging for gold, and then it runs dry, right? And you're like, dang. They're like, dang, why did it run dry? Let's try to find the rest of the gold, right? But then they threw in the towel, right? They were like, it's not worth it. We can't find it, right? Let's remember, because we all learned this lesson in some way. Let's remember, your goal is right around that corner. The success that you're intending to achieve is right around the corner of you just now giving up, right? The success that you want in life is around the corner, right? So let's remember that from Mr. Darby's story here, he was 3 feet short. Another 3 feet, he would hit the mother load. But he sold it to another dude who had the forward thinking to be like, I need an expert to make sure there's no more gold over here, right? I need to get the bag, right? So he said, I got to get this bag. I feel like they're onto something. I feel like they're just missing something here. So he asked an expert. He got expert help, right? And what does that show us, right? Sometimes we may need a little help, right? Sometimes you may need somebody to lean on to support you in that situation. I told you in my story about when I was getting my certs, my wife now, right? She was my friend at the time, but my wife now told me to not wait, to go back at it right now, right? So maybe sometimes we just need a friend around you to help you say, it's not time for you to give up yet, right? So hopefully today I'm that friend for whatever you're doing in life. It's not time to give up yet, right? It's not time to give up yet. It's not time to give up yet, right? So, so I hope you remember it's not time to give up yet, you know? So, yeah, so the other dude became rich. The other dude became rich because they threw in the towel. But Darby learned from this, right? He didn't let that beat him down. Let's remember this. Everybody's going to come up short at something. Everybody's going to come up short of something. But that is not the end of the road, right? We talked about it yesterday in our one-year Bible read, or 2 days ago in our one-year Bible read. Just because you make a mistake does not mean it's the end of the road. You still have a chance. You just got to learn. You just got to be receptive to being able to learn, right? So learn and grow from that. Mr. Darby here in the situation, he learned. What rang off in his head every single time he was about to sell to somebody, right? The fact that he came up short before. He remembered that I came up short before, and his determination was to succeed no matter what in the future. So even if you came up short before, be determined right now to succeed no matter what happens in the future, no matter what situation is in front of you. Be determined to succeed no matter what's happening, right? And that failure changed his whole life, right? So even if you fail, you can still turn it around into something positive, right? Fail at something, bruh, and then realize that you can succeed in it. It's okay, right? And now we got this little girl, right? Now we have this little girl that told us the child who needed to get 50 cents from Mr. Darby here in this story, right? Mr. Darby told her to go away, right? Everybody knows Mr. Darby is probably, according to the other people, well, Mr. Darby said his uncle was mean, right? Mr. Darby's uncle was kind of mean, right? So the girl should have probably been scared, right? How you doing, Mason? How you doing? Welcome back to the stream, bro. I haven't seen you in a minute. Excuse me. Usually everybody else would have been scared of Mr. Darby's uncle at the time, right? But the child showed bravery, right? The child showed determination, right? The child here said, my mammy's gotta have that 50 cents. She said, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm not taking no for an answer. My mammy said she gotta have that 50 cents. You better give me that 50 cents. I ain't going nowhere till you give me my 50 cents. My mammy gotta have it, so you don't give it to me, right? Her determination, her will made Mr. Darby's uncle wilt to her determination. He had never seen it happen before. And it was a little child that made it happen. It was a little child that made it happen. Your determination can make everything that's in your way wilt before you. That's what you need to take from that part right there. Your determination, your will, your desire, your hunger to achieve your goal can make everything else go away. Because you won't see it no more. She didn't see that what everybody else would have saw in that situation, to be scared of the uncle in that situation. Everybody else was scared of him. They was like, he's angry. Oh man, even Mr. Darby said, I thought I was gonna see a murder at this point. He thought his uncle was gonna take the child out of the world because he was that upset. But the child did not get scared. Did not turn around. Did not get deterred in that situation. Stayed there and said, my mammy's gotta have that 50 cents. Right? What's up, Paul? How you doing, man? How you doing? Welcome to the chat way from out there. Welcome. So my mammy's gotta have that 50 cents, right? So let's also remember to be determined no matter who may stand in our way, right? Your determination, your will, your desire, your hunger to achieve your goal can make every obstacle in front of you wilt in front of you, right? And Mr. Darby at this time said he had never seen something like that happen before, right? And those are three really good things to pull from the day's word. And we have this one thing right here. This is in bold letters, so we got to read this, right? We have to read this piece right here, and let's read this piece. When riches begin to come, they come so quickly in such great abundance that one wonders where they have been hiding during all those lean years. When it's coming like a landfall, like a snowstorm, like the snow coming off the hills because somebody did something silly, and now it's an avalanche. There we go. That's the word I was looking for, baby. Hey, I need a prayer for my country. Well, I'm definitely against war, so definitely for sure. All right, so I'm gonna show you something real quick, Paul. It's called reframing. Right, I'm gonna show you something really quick. It's called reframing. I'm not sure if it's something other people use or where it came from, but it's just something I came up with, right? So whenever I have a situation in my mind, I reframe the situations. If I have a situation that comes up in my mind, I reframe it, right? So how can you reframe this situation, right? So just to explain reframing a little bit more, say you're thinking about war, right? You're thinking about war, right? And we're reading about how thought can push things forward, right? So how can you reframe your current state of thinking? What are the benefits in the situation? And how can you think of it in a positive manner? What are the benefits in the situation, and how can you think of it in a positive manner, right? Let me stop talking really quickly. I'm gonna let my mind start racing, and then I'm gonna give you an answer. Cool. Okay, so reframing here, right? So reframing the situation, right? So what's happening? What are the current things that are happening, and how can this end amicably, right? So we're looking for an amicable ending to this situation, right? That's what we want. We don't want people to fight each other. We want people to realize that it's not worth it, right? So how can you think of a way for it to be, for those people to think that it's not worth it? Don't underestimate your power. In what way can you think of this to be an amicable ending for both sides, for neither side to have to go to war, right? Don't underestimate yourself, right? In what way can both sides come to a truce in the situation, right? And that's what you need to start spreading. That's what you need to start spreading. Don't worry about the war at this point. The next thing that you spread is that. So keep your mind on that, right? And then spread it. And then spread it as far as possible. Spread it as far as possible, far and wide, as far as you can. I spread it as well. I spread it as well. I already did. I already did, you know. Okay. But yeah, Chad, if you guys ever want to do that, bro, reframe. So work on reframing situations, right? I know everybody has thoughts that we don't like sometimes. Everybody lives in situations that we don't like sometimes. Everybody experiences things that we don't like sometimes. But your job is to reframe every situation. Every situation. That is your job. That is your job. So I was a missionary in my country. I used to go to villages singing Jesus Christ. I was in a relationship so bad I slided. I'm trying to get hard to get back on the right track. Hey, Brody, if you want to join us, we do 1 Year Bible Reads every single day. We're about to do our 1 Year Bible Read after this stream. Say 147 in a row. And we just talk about spreading the actual principles in the Bible, right? Which is loving your neighbor. And if you're reframing a situation for a situation to be loving of all our neighbors and to be respectful to each other, then I'm sure it's going to work out. I'm definitely sure of it. Even if it may not look like it at first. But chat, this has been our first day of Think and Grow Rich. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's read. We're going to do this every single day for a week. We're going to do every single chapter in this book for a week straight. Every chapter we're going to read for a week. We're going to discuss together. It's not just going to be me talking about the book at this point. When we all get to hear the book multiple times, we all get our own thoughts on everything that's happening, and we all can have a discussion together. And then we all can also apply the principles for our own lives, right? It's not just for me to improve, it's for everybody to improve. So let's keep enjoying that read. I really enjoy the read. It's really bet. And after this, we're going to hop into our 1 Year Bible Read. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's first day of Think and Grow Rich. We're going to do this every single day, the same as we do with our 1 Year Bible Reads. And I'm going to see y'all in about 2 minutes when I get everything set up for our 1 Year Bible Read. Peace. I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all day. And if you haven't seen this before, since some of you never seen me before, we all got that limitless core, baby. I appreciate you. I might even love you, but I'm for sure glad you woke up today. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for giving me the most valuable thing you could have given me, which is your presence. It's the most valuable thing you have, and it's the most valuable thing you can give me. So I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. If I don't see you in the Bible stream, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.